Welcome back to HDTV. Today we're looking at how the district devotes resources to bettering Southern Nevada's future health and well-being, often in ways you seldom see, but ways which really impact your everyday lifestyle. So in keeping with that theme, this next story looks at underground storage tanks for fuel, USTs. They're found at a lot more places than just gas stations. Nevada's unique character means those storage tank inspections fall to the health district, and as with most things in Southern Nevada, protecting our precious water supply is paramount.
An interesting story how the health department came to oversee service stations and underground storage tanks. It essentially goes back to the 1970s when the Federal Congress, National Congress, began to realize when they were digging up old service stations that the groundwater had become contaminated. That Congress made legislation and charged the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, with overseeing underground storage tank regulations. The EPA then delegated to approved state programs the UST Oversight Authority. When that was given to Nevada, the state of Nevada looked at it and said, well, the size of state government, given the size of the cities of Reno and Las Vegas, that it may be beneficial to contract with the local health agencies to specially train a few inspectors, which is what I am. My title is the same as a food inspector, but underground storage tanks are the only things that I inspect.
Now that may sound straightforward enough until you realize you'll find more than 800 UST sites in Southern Nevada alone. And from Laughlin to Mesquite to Las Vegas and points in between, inspecting and permitting those sites falls to just two men, John Wagner and his partner at the Health District. They certainly have their work cut out for them, and recently our crew managed to catch up with John to see firsthand the scope of his responsibility.
When we're looking at an underground storage tank system, we're looking at the underground storage tanks themselves. We're looking at the locations where fuel is dropped into those tanks. We're looking at the pipes that run to what are technically known as dispensers. Most people call them pumps. We're looking at the shear valve, which is the portion that's designed to stop the flow of fuel if a dispenser is hit or catches on fire. We're looking at a lot of technical components between when the fuel is added into the ground and when it eventually goes into your car.
But the job of the inspectors encompasses a whole lot more than just making sure there's a safe way to fuel your vehicle.
There are three major parts. Prevention, which is obviously where the efforts are the most effective. That would include our plan review. We review all plans for all new installations. It also includes our oversight of the construction. We inspect the tanks at the point when they're set into the ground. We make sure that all the piping is intact and done properly and to code. We then make sure all the sensors work and all the probes and all the electronic components, making sure that that system will be able to detect a leak if one occurs. Second to that, we move into the second phase, which is leak detection. In the event where inventory goes missing, that can be caused by improper measurements, it can be caused by theft, it can be caused by a leak. And we need to determine which of those actually caused the loss of product. At that point, we move into the third stage of what Southern Nevada Health District does, which is to oversee the initial site characterization and cleanup.
And when it's all said and done, with the help of other agencies like Clark County Air Quality, the Division of Agriculture Department of Weights and Measures, the Nevada Department of Environmental Protection, and the local fire department, it's all about preventing environmental damage and protecting the health and well-being of Southern Nevadans.
Nevada is a little unusual in the way that it addresses groundwater. Some states have different categories of groundwater and different degrees of protection depending upon the category of groundwater. They'll categorize water as either potentially potable or non-potable, and the degree to which you have to clean up a spill or protect that water. In other states, they distinguish between the two. In Nevada, we treat all water as potential drinking water, which is great. I think that living in the desert, that makes complete sense. I mean, you've got to realize when you see a service station or a gas station, there are potentially 30 or 40,000 gallons of fuel right under the ground. and you'll never see it, and most people never think about it. But that has to stay there. If that gets out and it gets into our groundwater, it directly impacts the health of the citizens of Southern Nevada. And so we must protect the groundwater, our drinking water, the soil, and our environment at large.
One more point, the job of underground storage tank inspectors impacts more than just your driving habits.
Among those 800 sites that we inspect, almost every casino has one. They're used to power their emergency power generators, and they have their own special inspection protocols. Airports, McCarran has 9 different sites that have tanks, let alone the number of tanks themselves. Of course, we inspect Nellis. There are private tanks. There are the antennas and towers around town. Those are often have an emergency power generator. Hospitals have them. We will set our eyes on every single underground storage tank in the course of the year.
Add to that the list of companies operating fleets of vehicles, school buses, emergency vehicles, and you begin to see how far-reaching an impact of just this one area of the Health District's Environmental Health Division is.